Good morning, everybody. How are you? Happy Monday. Welcome to another week. I had some trouble there pressing the wrong buttons to show the right camera. Sorry about that, guys. Hope that you're doing well. Hope that your week is off to a good start. I know for some of you, Monday's already over. For me, Monday and my week is just starting, but I hope that you're well. It is cold today. Tracksuit season continues because it is so cold where I live today. You know, this weekend I didn't do a lot of walking because it was so windy and I am terrible about walking in the wind. I need to improve on that. But I really hope that you're doing well in your part of the world, that you and your family are safe. And thank you so much for spending time with me. We're going into a big week here, guys. A big week. It's going to be a big week because I'm going to be crossing 100,000 followers on YouTube. Wednesday, maybe Thursday, something like that. So really excited to see how all that's going to end up. I'm going to have a long live stream to lead up to that celebration. So hope that you will join us for that. But I'm really also kind of reflecting on this past week. We had a really strong session yesterday on Sunday for this continuing series that we're doing on creating a data science project. That series is going really well. Lots of things that we are still looking at and discussing and examining. But yesterday was part 7, I believe. And we're making some really good progress. So if you're interested in joining us for that, that's Sunday. You're welcome to join us next Sunday. But for those of you that are new, welcome. Still get a lot of new followers, a lot of new users in the chat. So if you want to participate, you are not alone. Plenty of new people, and I'm also grateful for my recurrent supporters. We start off with what's known as our global roll call, where I ask you to please let us know your city, state, province, country. Nice, easy way for you to introduce yourself and participate. So if you could please, let us know that in the chat. It's a good way for you to introduce yourself, to carry yourself in a professional way, and it also adds to a professional nature in the chat. After that, I usually also, or rather while you guys are filling up my chat, I also like to give an opening note, just something in general for us to think about, things to consider, and kind of go from there. And then I'm open to your questions, whatever questions the chat has. I'm here for you. I basically let you guys set the agenda, right? I walk in with no agenda. I let you guys set the agenda in terms of what we want to talk about. And sometimes, and really virtually all the times, that leads to really interesting conversation. We've had machine learning discussions, AI, philosophy, all kinds of different things, right? So go ahead and just start filling up my chat with your introductions and questions, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. That's part of the fun. I'm already seeing a couple people in the chat. Just quick acknowledgements. Osama, our good friend from Satat. Osama, let us know how you're doing out there. How's things with you in Satat? Hope that you're doing well. Let us know how you're doing, my friend. How's work going? How's your family? Feel free to share whatever you're comfortable sharing. But hope you're doing well. You're first of my Moroccan group here, so welcome. AJ, our good friend AJ from Berlin says, great session yesterday. Cheers, Dennis. Hey AJ, good to see you. Yeah, yesterday was a good session, guys. Yesterday was really showing the work that's involved in being a data scientist, right? There's a lot of work that goes into it. So yesterday we went through what's known as the champion model process, where you start to actually look at what is the model that best addresses our business problem. There's a couple of dangers in doing that I also pointed out. But overall, it was a really great session. It's been our longest session today. So AJ, really glad you were there. Thank you for your support. I think most people that are in the chat, I know Denelson was there, Osama, AJ. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, it was a really good session. I think we had a lot of good back and forth, a lot of good ideas. So we're just going to keep on going with that series, because once we pick the model, then we got to deploy it, right? And deployment's like a whole other beast, right? But yeah, AJ, it was a good session. Appreciate your support. Jassim, how are you? Over on, not on Twitch, on X. I love seeing more engagement on X. Thanks so much, Jassim. So Jassim, I know it's not your first time here, but remind us where you're from. I know you've joined before, but I can't remember from where. Hello, Dennis. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well, thanks. Very well. You know, it's a Monday. I'm being optimistic about this week. Lots of things coming up, and then next week is kind of like a holiday week here in the U.S. with the U.S. Thanksgiving. But between now and then, you know, we're gonna have the 100K celebration. One of my friends is coming into town, so I'm gonna go out with my friend. So lots of things coming up. But I hope you're doing well too, Jasmine. Just remind us where you're from. Denelson, good friend Denelson from LA says, hey, happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe out there. Yeah, thank you so much, Denelson. Hope the same for you. Hope you and your family are well in LA. But yeah, I think I'm going to be optimistic that all of us are going to have a good week, right? I think there's a good week ahead of us here. So again, if you're just joining us, please let me know your city, state, province, country. Nice, easy way for you to introduce yourself and be part of the chat. You know, just kind of add to the community. You know, we really appreciate that. You know, I haven't given an opening note in a while because I'm not always inspired, or in some cases I have too many ideas, too many things in my mind. But you know, on my chat we can talk about anything. I think some of us have a lot of common interests that maybe aren't necessarily data science, but still kind of fit the general personality and all that. So I had an interesting back and forth with my moderators over on our Discord channel. And I was telling them how, you know, I'm so busy during the week with clients and doing the stream and all the other things that I do, that I usually use the weekends to catch up on my news, right? Because I don't always have the time during the week. So I was using this past weekend to get caught up on the news. So we're basically saying that aliens are out there now. Like, did you guys catch those congressional hearings? So we're basically saying that there's aliens. Like that's a thing now? Like, I was really surprised to go through that on the news. I totally missed that last week. And I'm surprised that no one in the chat brought it up last week. Because, you know, we can talk about anything, guys. But we're basically saying that aliens are real. Like, that's where we're at right now. Like, that's crazy, right? Like, the stuff I saw in the news about that was basically the clearest, like, admissions, or however you want to put that I've ever seen about aliens. But we're basically saying that aliens are a thing, and we know that they're a thing. Like, that's crazy, guys. Like, does that scare anybody, or like what does that make you guys think? Let me know in the chat. But we're basically saying, yeah, aliens are a thing. We've known about them. We have them. We have their spaceships. We have them. And by the way, some of them look very much like humans and could be living here among us. What the? Like, we're admitting that aliens are a thing. I don't know, guys. Crazy times that we live in, eh? Khalif, our good friend Khalif is back. Greetings of the day, everyone. Sir Dennis, we're about to hit 100K. Cheers. We are about to hit 100K. Thanks so much, Khalif. It's great. So that's due to great support from all of people just like you guys. So thanks so much for that. But yes, we are about to hit 100K. You know, like I've told you guys before, when I first started, I started on May 1st. I thought that 400 people in the first year would be like a smashing success, because I started from zero and I didn't really know a lot about social media. You know, I didn't really have any big accounts, or like wasn't really a thing for me. Like, I didn't know the difference between a short and a reel and a story and a post. And like, so I thought 400 users would be fantastic. So to be at 100,000, or if somebody had told me that I'd have a silver play button by the end of this year, craziness, guys. But thank you, Khalif. Khalif, and I hope you'll join us for the celebration stream. We're going to sit here. We're going to watch the numbers turn over. You know, it's not every day you get to see that. Less than 1% of all YouTube channels make it to 100,000. So that's also like really humbling to think about. But yeah, you know, you're welcome to join us. Everybody's welcome to join us. I'm gonna advertise it a little bit broadly. So you know, across all my platforms, and see if people want to join. AJ says, how come the aliens only visit the US mostly? Interesting. Now, AJ, that's not 100% true. I've heard that there's other countries that have received visits from aliens, right? Maybe they're not as well documented, or maybe they're sometimes it's protected information, right? Like if another country captured an alien or had some alien technology, like why would they advertise that, right? And actually, you know, I'm not like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but of course, but who's not interested in aliens, right? Everybody wants to know if we're not alone or not, right? One of the most interesting documentaries I had seen, I think it was like on the History Channel or something like that, was talking about, you know, it talked to a bunch of UFO experts. And they basically said, like, what is the most amazing or most amazing and most credible story you've ever heard about UFOs or aliens? And one of the experts, I can't remember, you know, his background, but to me, he seemed very credible. He said that one of the most things that has been kept quiet among aliens is from the government of France. And there are documented instances where France has actually communicated back and forth with aliens. Like, he didn't really explain how it came about, but there was a series of alien visitations in France, and I believe it was in the 90s, in the 1990s, so not that long ago, where they figured out a code, like a signaling code, and they have conversations that they had back and forth with an alien form, alien society, however you want to call that. So to me, some of the most incredible stories, like amazing stories, have actually come from outside of the US. Because think about it, like if a country had communications with an alien like that, would they advertise that broadly? No, right? That can be a competitive advantage, right? Like why would you advertise that so broadly, right? So let me delete this. So it's a competitive advantage, right? Like why would you advertise that? So yeah, AJ, I don't know. Like there are other situations out there. It's not always the US, right? So something to think about there. But I mean, like France, they allegedly had communications back and forth with an alien being. That's crazy. Jassim reminds us they are from Tunisia. Nice, welcome. Tunisia, I believe, is Northern Africa. So, you know, lots of people from Northern Africa. Lots of fans there in my analytics. So really appreciate you watching, Jassim. Anything we can help you with, feel free to put the questions in the chat, okay? Osama says, I appreciate it, sir. I am doing well, and I'm thrilled to celebrate 100K subscribers this week. Yeah, I'm thrilled about that too. Yeah, I mean, not every day that happens, right? My analytics say it'll be sometime Wednesday. Now, here's the thing, guys. I have a client call scheduled for Wednesday that I cannot miss. So the timing of this all might be a little weird. I might have to adjust a couple things. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see when it happens, but it should be soon. Denelson says, the part that surprised me was that they were apparently in the ocean. Yeah, Denelson, that is very true. There is, and this was part of the congressional hearings, but yeah, there was some clear indication that there are some very big, well, according to some of the experts, there's some very big ships or vessels or whatever that could be actually under the ocean. I mean, that's crazy, right? That's totally crazy. that they could be navigating the oceans underneath us, or have bases or whatever, right? That's very scary, Danielson. Very scary. Sure, sir. Yesterday's session was amazing as well. Yeah, yesterday's session was really good, right? And I love that we're actually getting into the heavy lifting of being a data scientist with a session like that, right? But yeah, thank you so much for your support, Khalif, and everybody else here who attended. It's only going to get better from here, because to me, these are some of the things that really aren't taught anywhere else, right? Like, there is no academic program out there that I've ever seen, even at the top schools, that tell you how to deploy your algorithm, right? They don't care. You hand in your assignment, you're done with it. So we're gonna change that. We're gonna be doing some of those things very soon, right? So yeah, yesterday was great, and I think they're all gonna be pretty good sessions. So guys, to Khalif's point, a lot of people do enjoy the Sunday sessions. I do have some different things coming up this week, or excuse me, this month, and through the end of the year, because there are holidays here in the US and things like that, right? So one of the things is I may have to take stream breaks here and there. Like next Monday is my dad's birthday. I'm going to drive out to see him, so I'm probably not going to have a stream next Monday. Little things like that. But I'm going to do my best to always have a Sunday session. So no matter what happens, I'm always going to make sure that we're continuous on the Sunday session. But we'll see. We'll have to see how kind of those things play out. There's a lot of content I want to bring you guys in January. I think January is going to be a really interesting time for content. But even then, I'm also going to try to not have a break in the Sunday sessions. And speaking of which, also, we've kind of had some discussion. After this series, there's clearly a demand for a neural network series. So we're definitely going to do that. And then we're also going to do a series on robotics. We might do a series on Arduino. So that could be cool. But if you guys have other ideas for series or other like longer type of pieces of content that you want, let me know. I'll add it to the ideas list. Some we'll do, some we won't. But, again, if you're liking the Sunday series, keep on coming back. I think we still have 3, maybe 4 sessions left in this series before we totally finish it out. And then neural networks will be another 3 or 4, and then robotics maybe another 3 or 4, and then after that, well, who knows, right? But let me know if you guys have any other ideas. Okay, so AJ is finished talking about aliens. He wants to say, I checked out ChatGPT's new update with the Work With feature today. Pretty cool feature, integrates with VS Code directly. Okay. I guess that's only a matter of time, right? That would happen, that they would be more integrated into VS Code. Here's the thing, AJ, and you guys can let me know in the chat. I kind of like building it outside of my IDE. I'm not really big on those integrations. Like I fooled around with a couple, that interested me, but I kind of like having like a separate tool, because I think it lets me be a little bit more critical, a little bit more analytical of the code it's providing. And that way I know that I'm only copying code from the LLM to my IDE when I think it's pretty good, Like, to me, it kind of adds to the confusion if I'm making adjustments back and forth all within the same IDE. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm willing to accept that just might be my own bias, my own way of working. But I kind of like it being outside. I kind of like it, like not so looking over my shoulder. You know what I mean? So you guys can let me know what you think about that, because I know there's tools out there like Cursor, or some of the other ones out there that are obviously highly integrated into an IDE. Like I get it, but I kind of like having it separate. Like, I like thinking that ChatGPT is like my employee, and then I'm asking it to do these things, rather than somebody who's kind of looking over my shoulder and kind of doing it for me. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like I said, I'm willing to accept that that's just my own bias, but you guys let me know what you think about that. Okay, Osama says, sir, I have a question. From your experience, what are the prerequisites to become a data scientist consultant? Ooh, yeah, Osama, that's a good question. The biggest two things come to mind, Osama. One is communication, right? Very, very good communication skills. You can't have your clients not understand you. And I mean that from like a technical terms perspective, right? You can't drown your clients in technical speak and difficult concepts and everything else and still have like repeat business, right? Or have people hire you, right? Because sometimes you might just go in for discussions, you know, kind of like you give a free hour or something where you talk back and forth and all that, right? So that's probably the biggest prerequisite, or the one I would list as number one, right? You got to be able to talk to people and have them understand you in a very plain words kind of way, right? So that's the first one. The second one is experience. You got to have the projects and the clients and other experiences in your life that you can point back to and say, oh yeah, I worked on that for this client, or yes, I've come across similar tasks, or yes, I know why you're asking that because your competitors are also doing this. Like you have to have a broad understanding of the marketplace, right? Not just in your sector, but or your client sector, but in other sectors, other companies, other countries. You have to have that perspective to be able to talk to them. And also, I mean, that kind of helps in the sales process, right? Because everybody wants to hire someone that they can feel that understands their problem or their particular need, right? So those are the two things that I would tell you. I'm sure there's others, like I could easily tell you about the business side of it, right? You got to have patience, you got to have the right billing strategy and things along those lines, right? But I think those are the two things that I would tell you. People are curious about data science, but they don't want to be, they would never hire somebody who talks to them in a way that they don't understand, right? So that's what I would tell you, Osama. Those two are definitely important. Okay. Santosh, our good friend Santosh is back. At least I think you're back. Hello, sir. I am Santosh, currently doing my master's in data analytics in USA. Fantastic, Santosh. Appreciate the introduction. Feel free to let us know if there's anything we can help you with, or ask questions, or anything we can do for you. Just let me know, okay? But glad you're here, and thanks for being part of the community. Manoj, our good friend Manoj says, good morning, Sir Dennis and everyone. Manoj from Bangalore, India. How are you, Manoj? Hope you're doing well out there in Bangalore. Hope you and your family are safe. Speaking of Manoj, Manoj is the person who suggested our efficient frontier theory approach to our project. So Manoj, we're going to be doing a lot of work on that next Sunday. So hope you're able to attend. I think it would be really beneficial to have your input during that session. But the same things we did yesterday on Sunday for the meta or profit by meta approach, we're going to do for Efficient Frontier. So it's going to be really cool. So that goes for all of you in the chat. If you really enjoyed yesterday, then this coming Sunday will be very similar. It'll be very similar, just kind of with a different approach to it, a different algorithm, right? Because we know efficient theory is completely different, and it's also a lazy loader. So pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. So thanks for being here, Manoj. So AJ asks, is it more effective to develop a deep understanding of a few key algorithms and architectural designs, or to cultivate a broader but less in-depth knowledge across a wide range of concepts? AJ, the great question. And I love how it ties back to Osama's question, because if it kind of depends on what you want to do, AJ, right? The second part, you're saying broader but less in-depth knowledge across a wide range of concepts. That's perfect for a consultant, right? A consultant wants that. So Osama, that's what you would want, right? If you're pursuing consultancy, then that's what you'd want, right? You want to have that breadth. Maybe you're not an expert in each of these, and maybe sometimes you have to bring in another third party or something, but you want to have that wide view, right? But AJ, on the other hand, if you wanted to, there's some people who just really like NLP. There's other people who really like image processing, or computer vision or whatever. And those things do require some specialty. They might require some extra dedication, right? Computer vision's not easy, right? So maybe you would want to dedicate a couple years of your life or whatever to becoming like a deep expert in that, right? So it's a great question, AJ, but it really just kind of depends on what you want to do as an individual, right? Like I don't know, to me, developing that type of deep expertise is cool. I just never felt passionate about one of those to really be interested, right? I've never felt passionate about computer vision and saying, oh yeah, I definitely want to pursue that, right? I'm passionate about data science. So there's other things I want to pursue. But yeah, I just that's just never appealed to me, right? I would prefer to much rather be able to talk to different executives across different industries, because I've worked in those industries, because I developed solutions across different models, things like that. That's 10 times more appealing to me. But that's just a personal preference. Osama sounds like he'd want to pursue consulting. Other people may not, right? For some people, consulting is too stressful. It's too extroverted, right? Or maybe they don't quite have the resume yet for that. That happens too, right? So that's what I would say. It just kind of depends. It just depends. There's no right or wrong there. It's just kind of what interests you. But good question. Let me know if you have any follow-ups on that, AJ. Isa, I think his name is Isa. Isa, we always ask people to introduce themselves, so let us know your city, state, province, country, and happy to take your questions, okay? Osama says, thank you, sir. Yeah, you're welcome, Osama. Let me know if that's something you're pursuing. Consulting is something that I've done in various times of my career. I've done it for big companies. I've done it on my own, self-employed. That's essentially what I'm doing now again. It's something that I've gone back and forth with, right? So I come back to it and all that. But yeah, it's just one of those things that you have to kind of enjoy, right? So for those of you that don't have a background in consulting, maybe you're interested, maybe you're a student. I know we get a lot of students and people early in their career. I'm going to tell you guys the number one thing that nobody tells you about consulting. All right. What no one tells you about consulting is that it's very lonely work. It's very much solo work. It's very much like one-on-one. It's you and the client. So if you ever get recruited, or you look on the websites for these large consulting companies, and they always show the 4 consultants working together at the table, yeah, teamwork. That's not consulting, right? I mean, especially if you're at a large consulting company, they're billing you out at minimum $300 an hour plus expenses, right? To fly you out there and all that, right? Nobody just calls up PwC and says, oh yeah, just send me 6 of your consultants. No problem, right? I mean, it's expensive, right? So it's a lot of solo work. So you have to enjoy those solo aspects of it. You have to enjoy the solutions and the help that you're giving, and that it's coming from you. So I know that sounds maybe a little bit egotistical. That would be a fair assessment of that. But you have to kind of enjoy that, because that is the work. That's just the nature of the beast, right? And by the way, I mean that for all kinds of consulting, not just data science. I'm basically saying that for like all levels of consulting, right? You're going to have support from your bosses and, colleagues that are in the office, like analysts in the office. Like, you're not going to be like unsupported. Well, assuming you're at a large company, right? But you could also be on your own and be unsupported, right? But you're not going to go fully unsupported. But it's nowhere near like the teamwork atmosphere that some people need, that some people thrive on, right? So I appreciate that we're getting a lot of those questions today. But if you're somebody who wants to go into consulting or is thinking about it or has thought about exploring it, keep that in mind, because you have to enjoy the solo aspects. Like, like one of my favorite sayings when I tell you guys is that sometimes with, data science and your stakeholders and the executives and all, you have to do like hand-to-hand combat with them, right? And you have to do that a lot in business no matter what. Consulting is very much a requirement to do that, right? Because you're there alone. So all of consulting is hand-to-hand combat. And if you're not comfortable handling yourself like that, then consulting will be very difficult for you, right? But that would be my advice to anybody thinking about going to consulting or exploring that as a career. Okay. I'm getting some people on Insta. Yeah, of course we can see your chats. But I've pinned a chat. We always ask people to introduce themselves. So please let us know your city, state, province, country. It's a way to act professional, keep the chat professional. It's in the pinned comment. So if you introduce yourself, happy to take your questions. Okay. Manoj says, yes, yesterday's session was great. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that feedback, Manoj. And anybody else wants to give feedback, because I'm always looking to improve. But yeah, yesterday's session was great. And we're going to have more of it this Sunday. This Sunday is going to be the same, except with a different algorithm. But yeah, looking forward to finishing out that session with all of you, or that series with all of you. Yassine, our good friend Yassine from Tangier, Morocco. Yassine, how are you? How's the studies going? Hope you're doing well. Hope your family's good. I'm assuming you're kind of reaching the end of your first semester, or the first semester of the year. So hope you're doing well out there, Yassine. Starry Vibes, our good friend Starry Vibes is here. Hello, sir. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well, Starry Vibes. Hope you're doing well too. I know you attended yesterday's session. I have no idea why you're still here. I don't know how you guys do it. Like, how do you guys attend a 3-hour session on Sunday and then you come back the next day? Like, I am tired. You guys take a lot of energy out of me. I don't know how you guys do it. AJ is asking, any suggestions for note-taking method apps that you found effective? AJ, that's a great question, and I am a terrible person to ask about that. I am terrible at taking notes. I kind of have an okay, sort of good, maybe kind of good type of memory. So like I hold a lot of notes in my head, and sometimes maybe later I'll jot them down. But usually like in the moment, in the meeting, in the conversation, in the client pitch or whatever, I usually try to not do notes. Like I want to be in the moment. And the more in the moment I am, the more I can like remember later, as weird as it is. So, you know what, guys? Actually, come to think of it, that's a great question for the chat. So if any of you in the chat want to help our friend AJ, please do so. Because yeah, I'm a terrible person to ask. I'd rather just sit with you, look you in the eye, talk, however long the meeting is, or, the event I'm attending or whatever. And then I go back and then I say, okay, yeah. And then this and this. Okay, cool. Right. But that's me, but I'm a terrible note taker. So if you guys want to help AJ, put your note taking or app suggestions in the chat. I'm just not a good person to ask for that. Jassim says, thank you, sir. I'm currently completing my finance degree. Congratulations. And I'm considering switching my career path to data science. I have some skills in data analytics, SQL, Python, and Power BI. Should I give it a chance? Okay, Jassim. Why? Why, Jassim? A finance degree is a pretty good degree, right? And I think you said you were studying in the US too. That's a pretty good degree. Why are you looking to change that? Like, why data science? So if you guys know, in my book, I talk about this. Whenever somebody tells me this type of question, because I get this type of question a lot. Why? Why? Why data science? Why not finance? There's a reason why you chose finance, right? It sounds like you're about to graduate. Is that what you said? Currently completing. Yeah, so you're pretty far along in a finance degree. So why data science? So let me know, Jassim. Feel free to share whatever you're comfortable sharing. But you got to tell us why. In order for me to really help you, I got to know the why. Data science isn't always for everyone. But yours is even more interesting because you have a finance degree. A finance degree in the US. I mean, even if you end up at a mid-sized company, that's still a pretty good starting salary, right? So let me know. Give me more info. I'm curious. But you got to tell me why. So let me know. Starry Vibe says it was a fantastic session and I learned a lot. Great. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it, Starry Vibes. Yeah. For those of you that weren't able to attend, but one of the things that I think that we focused a decent amount on yesterday was we did a lot of grid searching. We did a lot of the champion model process. And by grid searching, I'm really kind of talking about a hyperparameter search. Some of you may know it by that name, hyperparameter search, grid search. Looking at the different variables that we can adjust in the algorithm and trying different values, right? So definitely an interesting session. We got to look at a lot of results. We were plotting some of the results and we actually got some pretty viable models out of it, right? But in that grid search process, it's definitely helps you understand why there are some people out there who aren't always excited or optimistic about data science. In case you don't know, there are people out there who have a negative view of data science. And I'm not talking like conspiracy theorists or things like that. I'm talking about academics and business people and scientists who say, maybe data science isn't that great, guys, right? So when you spend more time in building the model and doing the grid search and, kind of understanding that it's a little bit of a brute force approach, it really makes you say, okay, yeah, I can kind of, you can kind of start seeing the argument from the other side, right? So I'm really glad we went over that because if you're a scientist, at core, right? If you're a scientist at core, not just a data scientist, but a scientist, you should want to seek out those types of additional opinions, right? You should want to seek out the other side of the argument, not just your own argument, but the other side. And you get to see that a little bit when you're doing that model building process. When you get to say, okay, well, wait a minute, maybe there is something to that. Or how do I know that this hyperparameter actually fits the model? Well, because I tried every combination, right? And that kind of ties back to the video I released today. For those of you that have watched my content before and all that, you might already know that I'm not optimistic about self-driving cars. I think self-driving cars can actually be dangerous. I'm not very positive about them. And one of the reasons I state in my video, and you can find it on YouTube today, is that there is a fundamental assumption out there, by basically everyone in the world, that there isn't anything that machine learning can't solve, right? That is the fundamental assumption. Machine learning can be a solution for everything. I don't agree with that. And part of the reason that I formed that opinion was going through these model building processes, like the stuff we did yesterday, Starry Vibes, right? Where you kind of start to see how these models come together. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool, but it's just a math formula that we're fitting with these variables that we kind of brute forced. So Starry Vibes, I think you're learning a lot, from an academic perspective. This is stuff that professors don't really teach. But it's also, I hope for all of you, that it's also shaping your view as a data scientist, right? Don't just learn from the model and the lesson I taught yesterday. Learn about the industry and all the different facets of becoming a data scientist, right? So glad you were there, Starry Vibes, and come back on Sunday. We're gonna do more of it, just with a different model. Vaishnavi, is it Vaishnavi? If I'm pronouncing that wrong, let me know. Hey Dennis, I'm from India. Welcome, appreciate you. I think it's your first time. Could you please guide on data science projects? Where can I start? Where can I get the resources? Thanks in advance. You have everything. Where you can start, that's you creating ideas, right? Where can I get the resources? There's plenty of tutorials on that, right? But don't feel like you have to go do a cloud solution or anything else. Just do things locally, right? But where can you start? So Vaishnavi, I know this is your first time, but the people who have watched me for a while know that I never give project ideas, right? Because creativity is part of data science. And if you can't come up with your own project ideas, then maybe data science isn't for you, right? So start simple. What are your hobbies? What are your hobbies? What interests you? Right? I actually had a coaching call a couple of weeks ago with a new client. And I had a follow-up with them yesterday. And they are deciding to do a project based on some health factors that they're interested in. So start there. What are the things that interest you? What are the things that affect you on a daily basis? I was so happy that my client chose that because it was something that was personal to them. It was something they could relate to. And it came from them, right? Those are going to be your best data science project ideas, where you sit there and you say, hey, I really like this, but gosh, it'd be so much more improved if I could also do this, this, and this. So how do you get to this, this, and this? Can you solve for that? Because if you come up with something like that, then you have a genuinely good, most likely original project on your hands, right? And that's a good thing, right? So Vaishnavi, what interests you? What are your hobbies? What affects you on a personal level, right? That's where I would start if I was you, okay? Follow-ups, let me know. Let me know in the chat. AJ says, what are some of your favorite YouTube channels to learn? I found engineering Stanford lectures and 3 blue, 1 brown videos really helpful. You know what? I don't learn from tutorials, not online ones. I think towards data science is probably the ones where I picked up more things. But they're not really like a video platform, right? They're more articles. I think, who is that? That's Jason Brownlee, I think, right? So I like some of his articles. But I'm a little old fashioned. I still rely on books. I like reading books. And I've already put some of my favorite books out there. But also just sit at home and experiment, right? Just be curious and say, okay, well, I wonder what would happen if I created a neural network with 100 layers. Can I make my computer explode? Let me try that, right? So to me, that's sometimes the best way to learn, So that's just me. But yeah, channels or YouTubes, I can't think of the last time I watched a data science YouTube, to be frankly honest with you. Yeah, even right now, nothing comes to mind, video-wise. If anything, I'm disappointed by most of the stuff out there, right? They're always trying to sell you a course, or they're always trying to sell something, right? Or they're sponsored by a cloud company or some other nonsense, right? You guys also know I'm not a fan of notebooks, right? So if I were to watch a video and as soon as I see a notebook, and I know most of them use notebooks, I'd shut it off, right? Because that's not enterprise level development, right? So yeah, I mean, I can't even think of the last time I saw one. I mean, I can think of the last books that helped me, but otherwise, I just don't watch it. Yeah. Yeah. And by the same token, you know, like there's sponsorship opportunities out there that have approached me or that I've looked at, and I don't want to do it because I don't want to be that same person that I wouldn't watch myself, you know? Like, I don't want to be like, I just told you guys that I don't like the sponsored videos and all the nonsense out there, so I don't want to contribute to that either, right? So, you know, just, you know, learn on your own, right? You know, there's always good books out there, right? Yassine says, I honestly felt the same the first time I used grid search. It felt like it was effortless just to watch it run. That made me kind of question everything, but it made me deepen my understanding of the insight you always share. The models are just tools. It's about using them for the right things. Yeah, Yassine, I'm glad you had that insight, right? Yeah, so Yassine here is referring to how I tell you guys that data science is a process. It's a science. Python, neural networks, CSV files, those are all just tools, right? But you got to understand what you're doing, right? So to Yassine's point, when you're doing the grid search, like, it's cool that you can do that, but at the same time, you're like, I'm just trying everything. Like, I'm just like brute forcing this, right? So Yassine, I'm glad you're having those insights, especially, you know, because I know you're still in school, you're early in your career. So I'm glad you're having these earlier, because it took me a while to realize this, right? Because it's super easy to fall in love and say, yeah, data science, this is awesome, right? We're going to save the world. But then it's like, wait a minute, this is just a math formula that takes some inputs I came up with, right? Like reality hits that way. And you're like, okay, yeah, I hope this doesn't kill my grandma in a self-driving vehicle, right? like that's basically like what Tesla and Waymo are doing, right? Like, we think that these weights and variables aren't going to kill people, so we're going to put those cars on the road. Yay! Like at some point, you kind of gotta be concerned, right? So I hope you guys, you know, keep on looking at these streams and the information I put out there with that holistic view, because like I said, the point yesterday wasn't to teach us how to do, you know, quantitative finance and invest in stocks. The point is to learn the process, the framework, the approach, right? Danielson says, I do have a question about the hyperparameter tuning. If after our second iteration we did not find any results that beat our first, would we have gone back to the first iteration and look at the second best loss? That's a good question, Danielson. So I don't want to think of it in terms of yesterday, because yesterday was a little bit different, because, you know, because again, guys, I'm trying to I have to shortcut some things, because, you know, we only have so much time on the stream, right? So yesterday would not really have happened because we would have run a longer initial run, right? Like, in an actual work environment, excuse me, the run we would have done yesterday would have been like days long, right? And we ran it for like 5 minutes per run. But your initial run in a proper implementation would have been multiple days, a lot more permutations, right? So I'm saying that because then, if you were to say, well, two things, right? But if you were to say, okay, let's go back and start narrowing and fine tuning, you're going to start from a much better fine tuned model, right? Because now you've tried a lot of different things, right? Like that after that first run, you would be significantly much better informed than we were yesterday after our first run, right? And that's not magic. That's just you tried more combinations, right? You brute forced it more, right? So that's what I would tell you. Second thing I would tell you, Denelson, is that in that first run, you may find a model that fits the parameters that you're trying to solve anyways, and there are no second or more fine-tuning required, right? Because we could have gone to the client and said, hey, look, this is the measure we're using, right? A mean squared error. What is your accepted range? What is your tolerant range for that? And they might tell you, just get us under a 3 for MSE. And in that first run, you come across a 1.5. So you might just call it done, right? You might just say, cool, we tried these combinations. We found this one that fits the client specs. You move on, right? So, yesterday was kind of unique in that way, Denelson. Would you go back to this? But even if you were to go through that whole process, and you were, to still come across that first one that didn't hold up for some reason, would you go back to the second one? Yes, you would. You would go back to the second one, but it's still dependent on, is the second one significantly different from the first one? Because if you remember yesterday, after our first run, we were able to say, oh, wait a minute, the linear models are producing better than the logistic models. So let's get rid of the logistic models. Like that was a reasonable thing, right? But if in another scenario you would say, well, the difference is just this one variable, and it went from 1.1 to 1.2, then you might know that there's not a lot of fine tuning available there, right? So it just depends. It depends on that, Denelson. But I like where your mind is at with that. Just remember that yesterday is a little bit unique because, I can't run a live stream where the grid search takes hours and hours and hours to run, right? So keep that in mind. But either way, I think we did great yesterday, right? I mean, we started at what? We started at like a value of 14 as being our lowest, and we got down to, didn't we get down to like 10 in the last run, like 10.7 or something like that, right? So, shows you the power of it if you keep at it, right? So I hope that helps, Denelson. RC Sim says, if anyone wants to experiment with image processing, LiDAR, ultrasonic sensors for autonomous car driving, they could use the simulator I made for free. I wouldn't mention if it wasn't related to discussion about people struggling for ideas to apply data science. Okay, cool. Thanks for that, RC Sim. Appreciate that. AJ says, what are some industry standard hyperparameter search methods apart from grid search? Well, I don't know if there's any industry standards. Grid search is just kind of like what exists. Are there alternative hyperparameter searches? Not that I know of. At least not ones that fit good data science. Like I've seen it done in other ways where people will say, oh, well, that hyperparameter worked over here, so let me bring over that hyperparameter to a new model, right? They will do that. Or they'll reuse the same neural network structure across two different projects, right? Which is not always a great idea, right? And I mention neural network specifically because the size of your neural network, the number of nodes, number of layers, can also be like a quasi hyperparameter, right? So I've seen that done, AJ. What's more important, like, the ultimate hyperparameter is your creativity, right? Sometimes you can just approach a problem in a different way, right? Or, if we want to stick along this talk about the self-driving cars, I don't know if you guys know this, but for a long time there was still a debate. Should you be using sensor-based inputs or should you be using image-based inputs, right? So sensor is like LiDAR, right? LiDAR isn't visually based, it's more about sensory, right? I mean, I know it creates a visual representation, I get that, but it's more sensory than visual. And, if you read the articles out there, Tesla had a very big internal debate about this for a very long time. Apparently, it was very divisive inside of Tesla. There was very strong people arguing for vision-based versus sensory-based, right? And I'm pretty sure they tried both approaches. And I want to say that some of the initial Teslas out there were LiDAR and sensory-based. But if you read what's out there, Elon Musk had the final word, and they went with a visual approach. I'm 99% sure that's right, that Teslas right now work on a visual approach. If somebody can correct me or tell me I'm wrong in the chat, let me know. But that's one of the differences, right? That Tesla is vision-based, and I'm pretty sure that Waymo is more sensory and LiDAR-based and all that stuff, right? Again, I'm happy to be wrong on this. You guys can correct me in the chat. But AJ, I'm putting that out there as a solution where sometimes you just have to take like a fundamentally different approach. Like that's, again, like a quasi hyperparameter, right? If you want different results, then take a different approach, right? So there are instances like that where you can apply your creativity, or you can apply like just a different approach, a different technique, or hey, we thought it was going to be a neural network solution, but let me try other things. So that's more of a hyperparameter that I've seen used as an alternate to grid search when grid search didn't go so well, or whatever the case may be. Lanry, my good friend Lanry, haven't seen you in a while. Hope that you're doing well. Lanry, you're one of my early supporters, so really appreciate you seeing you here. Hello from Belgium. I have started preaching to my classmates that enterprise level data scientists don't code in Jupyter Notebook. All right. We got to keep fighting that fight. That's awesome, Landry. That is awesome. Yeah, guys, get away from Jupyter Notebooks as early as you can. I know they're popular, and I know they're used in classes, and every YouTube video you've ever seen is on a notebook. Step 1, get away from notebooks. Start writing native Python code as scripts. Step 2, take those scripts and then start writing them as programs. There is a difference between a script and a program. A program usually uses a class, it uses a structure to it. There's usually a main entry method, right? Start getting used to that, because that's how you do data science deployment. The rule, the saying that you might know is you can't deploy a notebook. You can't show up at an enterprise job where they have like dozens of data centers around the world, hundreds if not thousands of servers that they're going to put your algorithm on and say, here's my Jupyter Notebook file that you can deploy. Like, they're going to laugh at you, right? That's not how it's done. You got to get away from that. All right. So Lanry, thank you so much for carrying that forward. That's awesome, man. You made my day. RC Sim says, yes, I think you're right. Yeah, I think so too. Let me get rid of this. Yeah, I think so too, RC Sim. I'm pretty sure that's the case, right? Tesla debated for a very long time. If you believe the articles out there, it was very polarizing for them to choose between the two. But Elon Musk said, nope, vision-based FSD is the way to go. And then Waymo, if you've ever seen a Waymo car, they have a lot more whirly things and sensors and stuff, right? Because they're using more of a sensory LiDAR approach, right? I think for some parts they use cameras. I can't quite remember. But that's kind of like two different camps, right? So in a way, coming back to AJ's question, like I said, AJ, sometimes you need that type of like radical revamp of your approach, right? Okay, so RC Sim, it sounds like you have some interest from Denelson on that simulator. RC Sim says cameras are kind of sensor too, but Tesla stopped going in Waymo's direction with expensive LiDAR sense. I don't know about that, RC Sim. I guess you could call them a form of sensor, but that's not really the debate. The debate is, how do you handle that data? How much more of a reliable model can you create based on that data? So that was the argument, right? That the data from the cameras, i.e. images, right? Because the camera is just a series of images, a very fast series of images. Can you develop reliable, strong models that use that data, right? I mean, that's really the question, right? Can you develop the model behind that? So that was really more of the question there. What approach gives you the best chance at developing models that will act accordingly, right? That's really the core of the debate. It's not about our camera sensors, right? It's more about like what gives us the best chance of approaching it. And if you guys remember, last week we talked, last month, we went over that article, right? Where the National Transportation Safety Bureau here in the US, the NTSB, has a complaint. They have an inquiry out against Tesla. And they specifically cited low visibility conditions and fog, I believe is what it was specifically, right? Which makes sense, right? Cameras do terrible in fog, right? Whereas a LiDAR or something sensory based could probably do a little bit better. I mean, I don't want to give Waymo any credit here because I think Waymo is a terrible company. But that's a potential example, right? If you think about a foggy picture that's ahead of you, do you want something that's more sensory or camera based? Can you think of other camera based solutions that wouldn't be so great? I remember reading about one of the early problems that Tesla had was covered bridges. Like covered bridges and tunnels. Teslas did terrible in that because you went from great lighting conditions to low lighting conditions, right? So you have some of those items that maybe you wouldn't have with a sensor-based approach, right? RC Sim says, yeah, cameras are likely best for reading signs. LiDAR is better for getting a 3D model of the environment. LiDAR would be better for finding pedestrian cyclists. Yeah. Now, like I said, I don't want to give any of these companies credit, but LiDAR would be better, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's safe, right? There's a difference between being better and being safe. Because if you or, God forbid, if you or anybody in your family is in an accident with one of these cars, and obviously those accidents have happened, fatalities have happened. Do you care whether it was camera or sensory based? No, right? It still stinks, right? It's still going to affect you in a very deep way, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that I could see why it would be a divisive issue within Tesla, right? Because I could see the argument on both sides. LiDAR can be very powerful, right? RC Sim says the ideal situation is more like Waymo's approach. They use lots of sensor fusion to combine data from many kinds. If fog rain is making cameras less effective, they could still learn from LiDAR. But is that better though, RC Sim? Is that better? I mean, I think Waymo still does a lot of things that aren't so great, right? Like when we looked at Waymo, because we did look at the Waymo safety report, they'll tell you 25 million miles of rides in their cars, but they don't tell you that 60% of those miles came from one city, right? So let's be careful with assigning too much credit to any of these companies, right? The bottom line is that there's a ton of edge cases in driving that happen all of the time that can expose us as a society to a lot of accidents, right? Like, I think that the real conversation is that we need to start accepting that maybe driving a car is a problem that machine learning can't solve, right? We have to be comfortable saying, hey, look, there's things in the world that can't be solved by machine learning. Driving might be one of them. Like, why aren't we having that conversation, right? Like, that's what I really want to know. Because that's where I think, some of these items are leading to, right? Or rather, if you watch the video I released today, that's the fundamental assumption that these companies all have. There is no way machine learning can fail at this, right? Like both companies would tell you that. Like, That's fundamental to what they're doing, right? RC Sim says that's better than going completely blind. I don't trust self-driving over human drivers yet. I'm comparing one self-driving car with another. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you're saying that they're better than Tesla, okay, I could be on board with that. But you know, just remember though that when we had that discussion, Waymo had 17 million of the 25 million miles in Phoenix, and to me, Phoenix was no mistake, right? Phoenix has some very, very ideal driving conditions in many respects, right? So Waymo knew that, right? Waymo knew that going into it. That was an intentional choice. So maybe in theory, LiDAR should be better, but maybe it's not, right? And what I'm implying is that they know this, right? Like Phoenix gets zero fog. They have like 340 days of sunshine a year, right? So maybe Waymo knows something already, right? That's possible. You know, and you can't say, oh, well, Waymo has less accidents than Tesla. Well, because Waymo's been in one city. To Tesla's credit, they're a little bit more widely distributed, right? But, you know, Waymo can say we're better than Tesla in one city. I mean, I don't know if that's kind of like, that's sleazy marketing, right? If they're going to advertise that but not tell you it's one city. So I don't know, but I hear you, RC Sim, and I appreciate your feedback. Obviously, this is something that you're educated on, so I appreciate that background. All right, guys, last call for questions or last call for thoughts. I think we're having some pretty good discussion on this. But RC Sim, RC Sim, if you want to send me the link to that simulator you mentioned, let me take a quick look at it, and then after that, maybe you want to advertise it on the Discord. I'm pretty sure you're a member on the Discord. You know, if that's something you want to share out. But yeah, obviously anything relating to those types of models, those types of sensors and all that, I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be germane to our conversations on Discord. But guys, I want to thank everyone for spending another hour with me. I think we've covered a lot of interesting ground. Again, I want to remind you that sometime this week we are going to have a 100K celebration, and really looking forward to sharing that with you. It's not every day you get to see that. So please come and join us. And lots of good stuff coming up. Lots of good stuff. So thank you so much. Appreciate all of you. 1500 GMT is when I stream. And, just as always, please take care of yourselves and take care of your families. And I'll see you next time.